Study section 7. Speech Act Theory. Introduction. The focus of this unit is on the speech act theory, which centers on the action humans perform in their speeches. We shall be concerned with some aspects of the history of the theory and its major components. Objectives. 1. To define and highlight the historical motivation for the speech act theory. 2. To discuss the types and characteristics of the theory. Contents. The credit of what is today known as pragmatics has gone to the philosopher J.L. Austin, despite the fact that other philosophers such as G.E. Moore and Wittgenstein had also done works similar to Austin's. The pervading influence wielded by Austin's idea on pragmatics has, however, been traced to 4 factors. See Thomas, 1995-28. A. The appearance of the most influential collection of Austin's paper, in brackets, How to Do Things with Words, was very timely, coinciding as it did with a growing frustration within linguistics with the limitations of truth conditional semantics. B. Austin's writing is admirably clear and accessible. C. Although over the years he refined and modified his ideas considerably, his work represents a consistent line of thought. D. His work foreshadows many of the issues which are of importance in pragmatics today. Details of Austin's idea and the philosophy that gave birth to speech acts shall be discussed presently. What is basic, however, is that pragmatics was conceived by philosophers, but has been taken over in linguistics. Austin himself foresaw that it would be within an expanded science of linguistics that his work would be developed. Thomas, 1995-28. The concept of speech acts. As said previously, J.L. Austin has been regarded as the father of pragmatics, with the view expressed in his posthumously published epochal book, How to Do Things with Words. Austin's approach was developed against the move to refine language, in bracket grammar, spearheaded by logical positivists such as Russell and others. These latter philosophers intended to rid language of its imperfections and illogicalities, and then come up with an ideal language in the word of Thomas, 1995-29. The response of Austin and his group was to observe that ordinary people managed to communicate extremely, effectively, and relatively unproblematically with language just the way it is. Instead of striving to rid everyday language of its imperfections, he argued we should try to understand how it is that people manage to cope with it as well as they do. Austin's pragmatics was predicated upon the conception that we perform certain actions when we speak, i.e., language is not only used in saying things, but in performing actions. By this inspiration, he developed the theory of illocutionary acts, which deals with what we do in our speeches, how we do such, and how such either succeeds or fails. He pursued this by first investigating the performing hypothesis. Although Austin later abandoned this hypothesis, its importance comes in its showing how his ideas developed, demonstrating the difference between a true conditional approach to meaning and Austin's view of words as actions, and showing that performatives are a subset of illocutionary verbs. Thomas, 1995-32. Austin distinguished between constatives, i.e., expressions which indicate the truthfulness or falsity of a statement, and performatives, which indicate that a speaker has performed an action. A constative needs to be verified as either true or false. For example, I drink here daily. A performative, on the other hand, does not require such verification. For example, I named this Baby David, or I apologize for my lateness. These two expressions show that actions of naming and apology have taken place. Austin noted that different types of performatives exist, but it did not tidy up his idea on this aspect. It has, however, been systematized, simplified, and sometimes expanded by Thomas, 1995, who has, in addition, named the different types of performatives, metalinguistics, ritual, collaborative, and group performatives. Locution, elocution, and perlocution. Austin later dwelled on the distinction between the utterance of a speaker and its elocutionary force. This was realized in the three-tiered division of locution, elocution, and perlocution. Locution refers to the exact utterance. Elocution is the intention the speaker has to utter the statement, and perlocution is the effect the utterance has on the hearer. Word uttered can be intended to serve as a warning, make a request or appeal, persuade, apologize, etc., with the expectation that some actions corresponding to the speaker's intention would be embarked upon by the hearer. The tobacco advertisement in Nigeria would make an interesting instance. In recent times, the Federal Ministry of Health has made it mandatory that all tobacco advertisements should be followed by a warning: smokers are liable to die young. A caveat indicating the health hazard of the product. The locution is the exact words used, which are tendentious to intend a threat or warning. Perlocution is achieved if fear is generated in the smokers, or if they, having been sufficiently threatened by a short lifespan associated with smoking cigarettes, abandon the habit. The locutionary act. Locution, or the locutionary act, has been conceived by Austin, 1962, to cover phonetic act, phantic act, and rhetoric act. The performance of a phonetic act is indicated by the utterance of certain noises. That of phantic act goes with uttering certain vocables or words, i.e., noises of certain types belonging to or as belonging to a certain grammar, and that of rhetoric act is marked by using vocables with a certain more or less definite sense and reference. Austin, 1995. Obviously, the meaning-related units of locution by Austin's conception are phantic and rhetoric acts. For Odebomi, 2006a, 26. Therefore, locutions are vocabulary items that have certain senses and references when engaged in certain contexts by interants. What the speaker says, i.e., the locutionary act performed, could be referred to as the operational meaning of his or her utterance. This operational meaning is determined by A, the senses of the sentence uttered, B, the identity of the objects in the real world referred to by the speaker, and C, whether or not the speaker is speaking literally or figuratively. Fraser, 1986-32. The task of determining the senses of the sentence uttered is not an easy one, especially where the sentence is potentially ambiguous. This is because the intention of the speaker is largely often conjectured and not accurately scientifically located. On the assumption that in uttering a sentence, the speaker always means one and only one sentence to be understood. The task of this era is to determine which one. Fraser, 1986-32. The intended meaning of the speaker depends on the context of use, i.e., who is speaking, to whom is he or she speaking, what circumstances led to his or her utterance, when is he or she speaking, etc. Reference relates to knowing the operational meaning of a word. The deicsis, i.e. that of place, time, and person, is very important in this context. Deictics of time appear as temporal, adverbial, and text items. They represent time as diurnal or calendrical units, and ultimately refers to roles of participants. Markers of time such as today, tomorrow, etc. indicate items that are relative to speakers. Cf. May 2000. Tense is deictic in the sense that nearly all sentences, when uttered, are deictically anchored to a context of utterance. Levinson, 1983-77. In this regard, time deictics prove useful in management of time in utterances. Place deictics relate to the encoding of spatial locations related to the location of the participants in the speech event. Levinson, 1983-62. Objects in spatial reference are either described or named or simply located. Either referencing is achieved through demonstratives and place adverbials. These items locate objects along the proximal or distal dimension. Here, this, THIS, and this, THESA. For example, singular this and plural this, for example, indicates proximity, while there, that, and those suggest distality. Person this depends upon the notion of participant roles and upon their grammaticalization in particular languages. Goddard, 1998, 638. It is realized through personal pronouns in several contexts of use. The first person pronoun includes the speaker. The second person includes the addressee, but the third person excludes both the speaker and the addressee. Cf. Levinson, 1983. Smith, 1989, noticed that the first person pronoun can make multiple references to someone other than the speaker, a group of people, an imaginary person, and an impersonal item. May 2046. Soundly argues that personal pronouns are important in establishing the current point of view, and as such as extremely sensitive to change in that perspective, emphasizing the place of context in deictic appreciation. Katauka, 2004-410, contends that the use of days in naturally occurring discourse has been regarded as the battleground of what is denotatively represented and connotatively presupposed or created, and that the spatio-temporal deicsis is inevitably meshed with interpersonal configurations created among discourse participants. The illocutionary arts. Linguistic communication takes place largely when we perform illocutionary acts, i.e., when our intentions, e.g., making promises, offers, apologies, etc., are communicated to the hearer. Linguistic communication is best considered in terms of what the speaker says, beyond the structural composition of the sentence. We may consider the following expressions. I will buy a dog tomorrow. Will I buy a dog tomorrow? The prepositional content of these expressions, i.e., the idea that the sentence expressed is that the speaker would buy a dog on the next day, but often what the speaker says transcends the bounds of the propositional content. For example, I will buy a dog tomorrow could be A, a promise, B, a prediction, or C, a threat. The sentence could be uttered as a promise to a group of kids, probably the speaker's children who perhaps have asked the father for a pet. It is also possible to be regarded as a prediction of an event that would take place in the future. Lastly, it can be considered as a threat if the hearer fears and consequently dislike dogs. Austin, 1962, classifies illocutionary acts into 5 groups, namely venditives, exercitatives, commissatives, behavioratives, and expositives. Venditives relate to giving a verdict. Exercitatives involve exercising power or influence, such as appointing, ordering, urging, etc. Commissatives relate to promising or announcing intention. Behavioratives have a link with attitude and social behavior such as apologizing, congratulating, condoling, cursing, etc. Austin, 1962. Expositives make plain how our utterances fit into the course of an argument, e.g., I reply, I argue, I assume. Austin, 152. In this classification, Austin claims, as he did with performatives, that English language verbs corresponds accurately with speech arts categories, but this is not necessarily so. Leach, 1983. Levinson, 1983. Thomas, 1995. Sell, 1969, identified 5 types of illocutionary acts, namely representatives, directives, commissatives, expressives, and declarations. We shall take them in turns. Representatives are utterances that describe situation through assertions, conclusions, claims, etc. For example, Tade is guilty of the offense. Speakers, through representatives, are committed to the truth of the proposition stated. A directive is an utterance which uses ordering, commanding, begging, requesting, and asking to get something done through the hearer. For example, please help me to lift this chair up. Commissives are acts that get the hearer committed to getting something done. These are promising, vowing, pledging, one's allegiance, etc. For example, I will buy you a video set. Expressives are acts that reveal the psychological workings of the hearer, e.g., thinking, apologizing, congratulating, and condoling. Examples of this include, I am sorry to keep you waiting. It is nice you have your PhD at last, etc. Declarations go to a large extent with institutionalized situations. Typically, a declaration causes a change to be in such situations, e.g., christening an object or a baby, firing a worker, excommunicating a member, and declaring peace. For example, I hereby name this baby Victor. No doubt, some of the acts stated, e.g., declarations, had already appeared in Austin performatives. Also, many of the acts are not universally acceptable. Yet, Sell's classification of illocutionary acts has been observed to have positive effect in cross-cultural pragmatics. Sell, 1969, 18ff, proposes a principle called the principle of expressibility, i.e., whatever can be meant can be said. However, the successfulness of an expression is tied to the ability of such an expression to meet particular contextual condition. What constitutes such condition are the illocutionary forces that can be performed, whose realization vary in a systematic way, according to the speech act being performed. Sell therefore believes that speech act groups should be determined by certain precondition sets for their performance, and that the form of these preconditions should be used as a criterion to tell one speech art from another. Searle proposes 4 conditional yardsticks. These are A. Propositional content, B. Preparative condition, C. Sincerity conditions, D. Essential conditions. The propositional content states specifically the features that should be considered in dealing with the meaning of an utterance. For example, requests require that one look forward, i.e., to the future, but apologies on many occasions take one backwards, i.e., to the past. Preparatory conditions specify the features of context required for the performance of a speech art. This may include whether or not the hearer is able to perform the art requested, e.g., of assuring. Sincerity conditions specify the wants and beliefs of the speaker. The speaker, for example, may wish that the hearer perform the art requested, or that he or she recognize in apologies that an offense has been committed. Essential conditions refers to the conventional way in which the utterance made is taken to be an effort at getting the hearer to do something, e.g., in request, or a step to undertake, e.g., in apologies, to correct a disharmony. Searle's rules of speech arts, as represented in the conditions above, have been offered for promising, requesting, asserting, questioning, thanking, advising, warning, requesting, and congratulating. We present his rules for promising below. Propositional contents. Speaker predicates a future act, A, or speaker S. Preparatory condition. S. Believe that doing act A is in its era best interest and that S can do A. Sincerity condition. Speaker intends to do act A. Essential condition. S undertakes an obligatory to do act A. Thomas, 1995-94. By and large, Searle's approach to pragmatics has been built on the hypothesis that when we speak a language, we engage ourselves in a form of behavior that is rule-governed. Its contribution can be summarized thus. First, the speech arts constitute the basic unit of communication. When we speak a language, our performance is in agreement with the rules. Speech arts are thus intentional behaviors. Second, Searle differentiates between illocutionary and perlocutionary acts. For him, the perlocutionary act has to do with the effects of the illocutionary acts on the hearer. Third, he differentiates between utterance acts and propositional acts. Austin calls the former phantic act. The latter is coterminous with Austin's rhetoric act. The utterance act refers to the act of uttering words, while the propositional act refers and predicates. Fourth, Searle expanded the notion of rules, differentiates between regulative rules and constitutive rules. The regulative rules regulate antecedently or independently existing forms of behavior. Searle, 1969-33, they are exemplified in the form do X or if Y, do X, like regulative rules, or S counts as Y in context C. They either constitute themselves into a system or are part of such a system. For example, football or chess rules both regulate the games and create the possibility of playing such games. Searle, therefore, sees the performance of speech arts as a conventional activity. Fifth, Searle reviews and adopts the Grecian semantic notion that if X means something by X and X intended is utterance of X to produce a certain effect on H by the latter recognizing the intention. For Searle, this idea of meaning dealing with the effect intended does not include the degree at which is a conventional matter. He also mixes illocutionary acts with perlocutionary acts. He stresses that it is essential to clearly understand aspects of these acts that are intentional and those that are conventional to be able to account for illocutionary acts. See Adedigba, 1999. The strength of this approach lies in its blending crucial aspects of Greece's intentional approach of meaning with Austin's conventional approach of speech arts. However, Searle's idea of intentionality is faulty. Contrary to his view, the intention to produce an effect is very important to any account of speech art. See Adegbija, 1999. Kent Banch and Robert Anish, 1979, proposed the concept of intention and inference to speech arts. They assert that linguistic communication is essentially an inferential process. They call this inference pattern. Speech art schemata. To make an inference from S utterance, it relies on the presumption of literalness, PL. That is, S is speaking literally if, in brackets, in the context, S is speaking literally. On the other hand, if H is certain that S is not speaking literally, then H thinks S not to be speaking literally. He therefore attempts to identify the non-literal illocutionary acts. When S is non-literal, he may end up producing an indirect speech art, where he says something and means another thing, or performs an illocutionary act while simultaneously performing another. In this connection, if S says to H, "It is too cold in this room with your AC on," S is giving the information to H that there is cold in the room because the air conditioner has been put on, and simultaneously asking that the AC be put off. It is important that the uptake of the second part of the meaning depends on the recognition of the first. Banch and Anish approach therefore takes care of literal and non-literal speech arts. Banch and Anish, 1979, contend that recognizing the illocutionary intention of the speaker makes an act communicatively successful. Therefore, contrary to Searle's view, they opine that perlocutionary acts are restricted to effects intentionally produced on the hearer. Part of the merit of this concept is that it demonstrates that the process of identifying illocutionary acts is elaborate and comprehensive. The approach also assists in making inference from indirect speech acts. However, it puts excessive emphasis on recognizing the intention of the speaker. Also, it does not fully characterize the mutual contextual beliefs. See Adegbija, 1999. Part of this non-fully characterizing the MCB has been tackled in Chapter 2 of this book. The perlocutionary acts. According to Austin, 1962, 119, saying something will often or even normally produce certain consequential effects upon the feelings, thoughts, or actions of the audience, or of the speaker, or of other persons, which are called the performance of an act of this kind, the performance of a perlocutionary act, or